How's it going, everyone? It's one of those days. Sniffling. Almost about mid-November. Forgot my sunglasses. And when I say it's one of those days, I do not mean that it's a negative day. I don't mean it's one of those days that I'm waiting to be over. When I say it's one of those days, I mean that it's one of those unexpected days. But also one of those days where I've found myself making the best of not ideal situations, such as getting up for early class sick, because I do not have the ability to skip any classes without losing points on my grade. But it's one of those days where it's mid-November. I find myself putting sunblock on my face because it's so nice out. The UV index is 1, so I'm not very worried. But I have this what would I call it? Stubborn, patch on my face. I got a sunburn quite a while back, maybe 3 months ago, and it turned into some dry patch that will not go away. Maybe eczema, I don't know. Anyways, I feel like burning it further will probably not help. So here we are, mid-November, putting on sunblock, wearing a short sleeve shirt. Yeah, it's one of those days that I did not expect to be living, I guess I would put it that way. But I'm making the best of it. So, it's been a while. I have a couple of other shorter videos that I've recorded that I haven't uploaded yet. I'm trying to figure out editing and stuff. But the theme of today's video is an irony which I have been itching to illustrate and point out for quite a while now, and I find that it's an irony which exists in my own actions, my own beliefs and actions. And the irony is basically that I believe that technology, media, specifically media technology, social media, news outlets, things which seem to exist more so for entertainment value than for anything beyond that. So, my belief is that these things are negative, more negative than positive to the human race in general. There's the argument that, text messaging keeps us closer because we're able to, connect from afar. I can speak to my mom every day. I can speak to my dad every day. I can text whoever I want. But there's this irony contained within the critique of such things being disseminated via these things. So, basically, the irony in a nutshell is that I'm making YouTube videos to complain about how, maybe not so much complain, but to illustrate how I believe that YouTube and sitting on YouTube, watching other people do things, not doing them yourself, I don't know, getting lost in the algorithm, I guess is how I would put it, is negative. So here I am making a video complaining about exactly that which I'm doing. So, we're going to try to elaborate on that a little bit. So, before I do that, before I go there, I want to plug another one of, you guessed it, good old David Foster Wallace's books. Everyone loves him. There's this, I mentioned it in another video, a previous video, where there's this like ick factor to specifically men who are into David Foster Wallace as an author, and how they usually describe his work as genius and necessary to experience and read, specifically when attempting to court women. And I can't lie, I mean, there have been times where I read a book by David Foster Wallace and I thought that, you know, it would probably make me shine in a way to share it, because there's no other way to describe that. It is pretty incredible. It's definitely unlike anything else that I've ever read. Any other author that I've ever read. But currently, the book I'm reading is called The Pale King, which is a book that was posthumously published after David Foster Wallace died. And he ended his own life, which is a pretty conflicting reality, but I don't know. I guess it can end up happening to anyone. It seems that way. Like, people hold those who have ended their own lives to such high regard, especially when they contributed so much to what we enjoy in this life. Like Robin Williams, all these sorts of people. And one thing that they all seem to have in common, or many of them seem to have in common, is that they flew too close to the sun, or went too far. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. So, The Pale King is a book about, I mean, when I have heard it described, it was described as a book about boredom, a book about mundanity, a book about, I mean, it follows the lives of a few individuals who begin working in an IRS service center. I've got to find a way to pick spots where they are not infested by ants. Actually, I take that back. I won't say that they're infested by ants. In this case, I'm the one infesting the ant spot. It's for all of us, so we'll just share. They do tickle, though. Thankfully, they are not fire ants. So yeah, it's a book about boredom. It's a book about a few guys who are beginning work at an IRS service center. So basically, the characters are examiners of filed taxes for tax refunds. And as you can imagine, describing the lives of people who work as tax examiners is probably not very exciting. So, right off the bat, I'm probably 80% through the book, so I'm almost finished with it. It's kind of like fragments of these individuals' stories, like skipped around. So it's not so much that it's hard to follow, it's just that you have to keep track of each individual storyline, and there are signifiers of each kind of character. Like they all kind of speak their own language or have their own characteristics. So it's kind of easy after the first 2 or 3 excerpts to figure out which section you're on. And about 80% of the way through, I'm on section or chapter 40. So there's quite a few. Some are long, some are short. I know a few of them in here have been, maybe not a few, but I know that at least one of them has been published as a standalone excerpt, like a standalone short story, basically. And I think it was like a 50-page long, maybe even 100-page long chapter or section. But something I noticed about this book, probably about halfway through, is that it's a very cool, unique book in such a way that I'll find myself reading certain sections, and again, it's about the IRS, certain sections about tax code, about interpretation of tax code, and they're hard to initially follow, and they're hard to stay focused on because of the kind of boring, mundane aspects. And then on the flip side, there are sections where it's a description of something so simple happening, and maybe it's been hashed out over the entire story arc, but it's like the most simple thing explained in the most scrutinous, kind of overkill amount of detail in the most like wacky ways. And an example, I guess, is maybe a story of like a story from one of these people's upbringings, describing how they got to this place where they became this person who chose to submit for work as an IRS examiner, which takes a certain type of person, I'm guessing, to sit at a desk and have quarterly reviews of how much throughput you are performing in terms of examined tax refunds, tax filings. Like, I get the job is described as how efficiently can you pick out the filed taxes which present as the most profitable audit potentialities. So which ones are most likely to produce the most profit for the U.S. Treasury if they are to be selected for audit. So it's this description of this game that is working as an IRS agent. And it's just crazy how wide the gamut is between like the super, super boring, like 20-page sections about just the most ridiculous stuff you could never comprehend, and then the absolutely hilarious portrayals of these people's like I'll read a couple of paragraphs just to give you a taste of some of these things. This would be in the latter categorization, so of the kind of goofy, wacky, very descriptive, random, but hilarious and kind of disturbing examples. So this chapter starts out as, every whole person has ambitions, objectives, initiatives, goals. This one particular boy's goal was to be able to press his lips to every square inch of his own body. His arms to the shoulders and most of the legs beneath the knee were child's play. After these areas of his body, however, the difficulty increased with the abruptness of a coastal shelf. The boy came to understand that unimaginable challenges lay ahead of him. He was 6. So there starts the story of this 6-year-old whose ambition, his life ambition, is to touch his lips to every part of his body, every square inch of his body. Little further on in the chapter, nor was it ever established precisely why this boy devoted himself to the goal of being able to press his lips to every square inch of his own body. It is not clear even that he conceived of the goal as an achievement in any conventional sense. Unlike his father, he did not read Ripley and had never heard of the McWhirters. Certainly, it was no kind of stunt, nor any sort of self-evection. This is verified. The boy had no conscious wish to transcend anything. If someone had asked him, the boy would have said only that he'd decided he wanted to press his lips to every last micrometer of his own individual body. He would not have been able to say more than this. Insights or conceptions of his own physical inaccessibility to himself, as we all are of us self-inaccessible and can, for example, touch parts of one another in ways that we could not even dream of with our own bodies, or of his complete determination, apparently, to pierce that veil of inaccessibility, to be, in some childish way, self-contained and sufficient. These were beyond his conscious awareness. He was, after all, just a little boy. So that's one of the more wild ones. This hashed out 15-page section about this kid learning how to contort himself in ways where he can kiss with his lips every part of his body, every inch, his back, his neck. It's just like the most absurd and kind of funny imagery you can imagine. I don't know, his writing is so odd. I don't know, I guess one thing that he was quoted to have said was that, or claimed to have said, was that when he wrote, he assumed that the reader is smart. He said, when you're writing, it's best to assume that the reader is smart. So whatever that means, but I'm not sure if all sorts of people share these weird, inner experiences and thoughts and kind of wackadoodle, quirks, but if we all do, he's a great author to get into, and he doesn't have that much work out there. He has a number of essays and a couple of bigger novels and a couple of novellas, but for the most part, his library is not that big. But his long books are long. This one's 600 pages, I think, and Infinite Jest is 1,100 or something. Do you suppose it's so much easier to make conversation with someone you already know well than with someone you don't know at all, primarily because of all the previously exchanged information and shared experiences between two people who know each other well, or because it's only with people we already know well and know us well that we don't go through the awkward mental process of subjecting everything we think of saying or bringing up as a topic of light conversation to a self-conscious critical analysis and evaluation that manages to make everything we think of proposing to say to the other person seem dull or stupid or banal, or, on the other hand, maybe overly intimate or tension-producing. there's too many good ones. I would recommend reading the book if you've got some patience and time. Alright, onwards to the focus of today. That odd irony. That irony that I can't get away from thinking about. It's just there. It's there and it doesn't go away because it's there. How could something go away when it's there? Some pretty gnarly looking battle hind is flying across the sky right now. Alright, yeah, so as I started the video with, it's one of those days where I'm very satisfied in realizing that even though I have a cold and I had to go to class with a cold, it doesn't get any better than this. It's like, if I can't be grateful for today, for the season of today, why would I even focus on next season or tomorrow? There's no rhyme or reason, as my mom would say, to why I would focus on tomorrow if I can't even appreciate today. So yeah, I'm sick in the sun and I'm loving it. I do wish I had my glasses, but we're gonna be okay. So, that irony. In order to best describe it, the concept of problem and solution have to come up. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's a measure of energy. So, yeah, it's like the Newton's cradle or whatever. Like, you pull the ball back and the energy has equal and opposite reactions to the initial movement. And it works in such a way where anything that we do as people works in the same way. Anything that happens works in the same way. There is a consequence to everything that happens, basically. And consequences don't have to be thought of in a negative light. For example, if we're looking at something as a problem, the consequences that happen in order to label it a problem must be negative. So, say the example is that a sick student walks into a classroom and comes to class. And the sick student is sneezing, coughing, projecting his or her voice with force at the other students while in discussion. And the other students get sick. The consequences of the kid coming in to class sick is that he passed the germs around and got the other students sick. So one could say that it is a problem for a sick individual to come to class. So that's how I look at problems. I think that's how we all look at problems. A solution, on the other hand, when someone does something and it is noticed that the outcomes or consequences of what they do are positive, that action was considered to be solution in nature. So, back to the topic at hand. This oddness that hangs in the air. Something that comes up whether I know you or not, whether it's the first time I've met you, it could be 5-10 minutes into our discussion that some disdain towards some political figure comes up, some form of complaint. It might be a complaint common amongst the elderly population in 55-plus-year-old senior living communities or retirement homes, a common complaint amongst the population of people who have grown old to the point where they are retired because they have enough money to take care of themselves, yet they are kind of out of touch in regard to the rest of society. Like there's senior day at Harris Teeter, the grocery store, where senior citizens can go in on Thursdays and get a discount on groceries. Like, there are, the more expensive retirement communities where there are live bands that come to play so that they can enjoy camaraderie and get to know one another, and they can play bridge together. I must be sounding extra nasally today. The common complaint here, even if it's not voiced, it's made clear that there's this lack of purpose or lack of meaning in these people's lives because they find themselves waking up day after day and they're in their nice place. And what do these people do? Especially these communities where there are no shared spaces. It's kind of just units in a 4-story cookie cutter massive rental apartment building, where the most interaction that happens for these people is when they're in the elevator together or walking by each other in the hallways. So the most common problem is this lack of sense of meaning and purpose. And I think it's because, these people don't have jobs. I guess many of them could probably if they wanted to. But I think retirement is something that's a promise of Western civilization. It's work your ass off for 40 years, 50 years, and then retire, and you're good to go. You can just sit back and relax. But it's people have seemed to come to recognize the trap in that type of thinking. And everything's a trade-off, because how could one could see, being beholden to a 9-to-5 job at the same place every day, 5 days a week, could be the modern equivalent of enslavement. And in a way, I can see how that's the case. Specifically in cases where the pay is so little that even when you do have time off, you don't have the wherewithal to do anything that you desire. But the other way to look at it is that you could say to yourself, wow, there are probably a ton of people in this world, of the 8+ billion of us, who would give anything to have a daily duty, something that they matter in, something that they're contributing to something in. And I guess it depends on the nature of the job, maybe, but Yeah, so that's the problem and the example of the senior living community, where there's people from anywhere from 60 to 90 plus years old who lack meaning in their life. Maybe they don't have family members locally. And what is the solution to that problem that I know of? One of them is volunteer work, which I know plenty of people do, and I think they do it for the reason that they know this problem to exist. And I don't know. I don't know if there's so much irony contained in that. It doesn't seem that there is. But in this example, where I'm not the only one, it seems to be a like a common niche. I can't really stand it when I say niche. I mean, that might be the correct way to pronounce it, but it's a popular niche on YouTube, and maybe, I guess, also on Substack. That's another platform that I'm on, where people are criticizing exactly that which they're doing. It's like lawyer quits job to become an outdoorsman and build shelters in extremely high levels of snow. Lawyer quits job to become modern day survivalist, while videotaping it all and uploading it to the internet. It's just strangely ironic. And so that's one example. Another example is there's a number of examples. There's the dude named Asmon Gold on YouTube. I think he just a lot of his videos are like, what the fuck is going on? Like, did this really happen? Like, kind of hard to believe reactions of like, is this actually happening right now? Which I think a lot of us are thinking that to ourselves, in many ways, almost on a daily basis. Everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? There's a very kind of crude type of humoristic spin on his stuff. I don't know how I feel. I get it. I'm getting really sniffly. If you're sticking with my voice, thank you. Gooby and Doobie, I like that guy a lot. He's I think either neurosurgeon or neuroscientist. I don't know. Basically, he quit his job and makes YouTube videos now about the problem, where we're headed as a human race, and what we should be doing about it. And it's him and his dog. They make great videos. He's got a lot of good points that he makes. Gerbert Johnson, who is a total goofball. Cheers to that guy. I mean, he toes the line when it comes to that place where you can't tell if he's just so done with it that he's just making everything into a joke, but at the same time kind of stating things for what they are at face value, and then digging deeper to acknowledge and point out what these things signify and stand for, symbolically, to the human race. I think he kind of makes satirical criticisms of extremism. I guess that's how I would describe him. And then he also just like totally makes goofy like freestyles, and yeah, he cracks me up. His videos are getting taken down, I think, which is not surprising. Gerber Johnson, another guy I came across, Stephen Antonioni, very Italian, I'm assuming. Dude who ran away and bought a cabin in the woods and tried to escape the Matrix or whatever, and then realized that that's not like the solution to the problem that he was thinking it was. Finance maxing, like fat fire, like early retirement type of thing, like become financially free. What is this solution to life, basically? So these people are all there's an overabundance of channels like this. It's not new. It's definitely a popular theme slash niche right now. So what I'm trying to point out is that there's this irony that, I mean, that's so ironic that there's a abundance of people videoing themselves, like me right now. I'm sitting in solitude, speaking to a camera about how the problem that I'm aware of with humanity right now, as in the consequences of what I'm describing, are not helping us. So it's problematic. It's making things harder for us and making things worse for us in terms of connection and ability to be loving, etc., is abundantly popular. And this is what I find so challenging about it for me, is that I have an urge to spread the word. It's like, I know that my job as a human being, my calling, my God-given calling, is not to save the world. That's not how it goes. That was Calvin from 10 years ago. Maybe 7 years ago. Calvin of 7 years ago was the Calvin that thought that it was his calling to save the world. Calvin of today knows that it's my job to play my role in the grand plan, the grand picture, of which I do not know the outcome. And I don't think really anyone knows the outcome, because everyone seems to be confused. But my point is that it feels to me like it is my calling, or at least part of my calling, to describe that which I observe. And this is me describing what I observe. It's like having conversations with family members, or having conversations with friends, with peers, with anyone, random people that I meet and haven't spoken to for more than 5 minutes total. There's the common themes which come up, and the common gripes that people have with the modern day world. It's like, without problems existing, we wouldn't have any reason to act. It's like part of life as a whole is taking on the challenge and accepting the challenge on a daily basis. So in a goofy way, I will say that problems exist, but it is not a problem that problems exist. It's only natural. It's only part of the the endless circle of life, the cycle, the ever-spinning wheel, as I describe on my Substack. But I just can't help but find it extremely humorously ironic that I want to spread the word. I want to spread the word, and the way that I find it most likely for me to spread the word successfully is to speak to a camera and upload it to the internet. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I have a desire, I have an idea, and I'll hold myself to it now and say that I have an idea to go downtown and stand on a street corner and peddle poetry. As in not peddle it, I'm not going to sell poetry. I'm going to have a list of themes and topics, universal human themes like love, despair, blah, 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 what have you, and I'm going to ask people to pick a category. If they ask me what's going on, or if I approach them and say, hey, do you have a minute? Pick a category. They will pick a category, and then I'm going to read them one of my poems having to do with that category. And I'm going to do that to spread the word, so to speak. So that's one way that I'm going to address the problem in more of a critical way than I guess this is. But it's I don't think that irony has to mean ineffective. I think that sometimes in life, the solution to a problem can utilize the problem in and of itself. And an example would be, maybe an inverse example of this would be the story of The Hobbit, and how it all starts out with the dwarves. And the dwarves, they had their fortunes and their prosperity taken from them. And they want to go on this adventure, and they want to go find the treasure that Smaug, the dragon, is hoarding and keeping all for himself. They want to get this to serve their race, serve the prosperity of the dwarves. And the irony is that the treasure which they seek to basically solve their problems is what causes all the problems in the end. It's like what almost, it's like the, I don't know, like the irony is that the pursuit of the treasure to help them comes to reveal to them that the treasure is, like, in a sense, what creates the problems in the first place, or the pursuit of the treasure, if that makes any sense. But so yeah, there's that irony that I'm describing the problem and trying to spread the word by using the method which I'm criticizing. So I am a hypocrite, if that's not clear. And then, yeah, I guess in order for a problem to exist, or I guess part of a solution to a problem is that the problem must exist as a problem first. As in, if there are no consequences, if there are no observable and experienceable consequences, negative ones, then no one's going to see the problem as existent. It's not going to, like, I guess climate change could be one. it's no surprise that climate change is seen as a problem by many people because of the rising sea levels. It's concerning. When your house is on the edge of the water line and it starts going underwater, it becomes apparent that there's a problem at hand. So, I don't know, this is fun stuff to think of. But that's where I lie now. I guess I'll end with a reading. I'll read one of my poems. Alright. I don't remember what I titled this one, but I posted it on Substack. I'll add the link to it. So here it goes. I wish sometimes it were appealing to hold myself to lower standards. Who can blame those who do? Am I really so pious? Is what I submit to even piety? I quit porn, but porn does not quit me. Us. The landscape I inhabit and traverse is built of it. Dare I remove the fraud facade? Pent-up steam screams through the canals of my ears as I realize the necessity of masking. Phony if I cave and stoop to the level of Joe and company. Coward if I express, rile, and then placate. I am to be capable of deluding myself into acceptance of a role as a piece of shit, but continue to witness them flourish while those who exude pureness of heart take it like champs. Some very seldom must practice repression in any sense. Perhaps this is the appeal to embodying oppressor. Right about now, it appears that one either owns the plantation or works on it. I hold some interest in it myself, but have sold many shares, and so it is only natural for me to keep the friends close and enemies closer. Nature appears to bring me much shame. It follows that my conflicted psyche seeks mind-numbing escapes. The dope hits must come from somewhere, when the head and the heart misalign. One of the universal laws at play. What are your vices, then? I am asked, after sharing my departure from the world of daily drugging. I respond with the ones which remain. Getting lost in my drone device, titillation nation. It is stupendously clear that the fewer the vices, the lesser the imprisonment of the conscience. It becomes free to haunt. Clearly, we are in need of help when it becomes a rare treat to observe the conscience of another roaming free. God grant me the strength to put mine on display more regularly. We are in a great need of collective haunting. That one stemmed, I think, from me asking myself, if it's accurate when people say everyone's got their vices. If that's just like, I guess, yeah, vices, coping mechanisms, escapes, whatever you want to call it. So I was asking myself, is that accurate? Does everyone have their vices? And I think, yeah, to an extent it's true. And then I asked myself the question, what is the result of cutting down on vices? As every action has a reaction. So if the action you're taking is cutting down on your vices, and that's something that you are coming to achieve, like for simple example's sake, say I'm dependent on caffeine, nicotine, smoking weed, and drinking. That's 4 mood altering, I don't know, substances that I'm taking. So what's the difference in result of removing my dependence of nicotine versus if I remove all 4 of them successfully? And how does that result show as time goes on? Like, for example's sake, we'll say that not all of them were removed at the same time. Which in my example, or in my own life, was not the case. They did not get all removed at the same time. They are all removed now, but which vices take their place? The 2 that stand out most to me are compulsive use of my phone, just kind of like picking up the phone and pulling up YouTube and looking at shorts. And then a more extreme example would be succumbing to temptation to consume pornographic material, which also rarely happens now. But nonetheless, they exist. And I guess to end today's video with kind of a question to ponder is it possible to repress an action, but to not repress, but to instead integrate that which drives the action which has been repressed? So, for example, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say, for me, the answer is yes, because I successfully repress the use of drugs. I repress the action of smoking weed, the action of drinking alcohol, successfully. And I think that the reason that I have done that successfully is because I have integrated and not repressed or removed what signaled me to take part in those actions. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to leave it with for today. But anyways, I'm on this journey called life. I'm exploring my freedom of expression and, whatever you want to call it. I'm hoping that it resonates with some people. I'm sure it will, considering the fact that we all seem to share in this confusion or concern on a daily basis of all of the weird things which happen in this life. Life is definitely weird in such a great way. I'm grateful, and God bless all. And thank you, God, for today. I'm at this point in my life where whenever I'm sick like this, when I get like a simple cold, I'm not in the place anymore where all I do is focus on how much it sucks. Instead, I seem to think of how grateful I am to have good health, overall. Because it's just like, how many days is this going to last? 3 or 4? We'll be okay. But, alright, it's time. I'm going to get back to it. Stay curious, ask questions, and enjoy life. Thanks. Talk to you next time.